Hello, friends, and welcome to the Knit Sip Happy podcast. My name is Nancy, and I'm coming to you today, February 22nd, from Moncton, New Brunswick, which is on the east coast of Canada. It's a beautiful sunny day in my part of the world, but very cold out there. So it's a red wine and a full sleeve sweater today. So it's only been a little over 2 weeks since my last podcast, but it's going to be another 2.5 weeks till I podcast again. And there's a reason for that. Sophie, Cozy Meadows, and I are going to be doing a joint podcast on Sunday, March 5th. So I just wanted to slot hopefully a quick little chat with you guys in between my last one and that one, because there's been lots of news happening around here. Okay, let's get to the nitty gritty. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Knit Sip Happy. You can get in touch. There's an email listed down below in the show notes. Everything will be linked. I will link all of my project pages and people that I talk about down below if you're looking to find anything specific. If I've missed anything, please reach out. I'm always happy for a chat. So back to the Sophie Cozy Meadows joint podcast. If you have any questions for both of us, either of us, feel free to leave them down below, because we're going to be looking to do some little fun Q&A sessions maybe and find out what we don't know about each other, which is probably quite a lot because all we talk about is knitting. I saw Sophie last night at our knit night, which was awesome. We had 23 or 24 people. It was a great turnout, so had a really good time last night. All right, I'm all out of order. What I'm wearing my Specter by Joji Locatelli. I knit this probably about 5 years ago. I didn't think to stop and look at my my Ravelry page. I'm going to insert some pictures here for you to save me standing up and showing you. But it's a fade sweater that once you get past the nice yoke stitches, you turn inside out so you don't have to purl all of these stitches. So you're knitting and then just purling to create this detail. It's a fun knit. I kind of keep finding fade sweater quantities in my stash and think, ooh, that would be another fun one, because I do remember it was a fun knit, but then something new and shiny comes out on Ravelry, and that's all I want to do is knit that. So, we had a quick trip to Fredericton on Family Day on Monday to see our daughter and her new fiance and the puppy Archie. My daughter got engaged a couple of weeks ago, and he proposed on the bridge that is based on my Freddie Beach socks. So this pattern is based on a bridge in Fredericton called the Bill Thorpe Walking Bridge, and that's where he proposed. So of course, now high on my list of things to do, I want to knit them his and hers pair of the Freddie Beach socks, because wouldn't that be fun? For me anyway. I don't know if they'll enjoy it, but I think it's just... So the wedding's not going to be until August 2024, but we are starting to go wedding dress shopping, and I'll be making numerous trips to Fredericton and back over the next few weeks just to be doing things like that. Just biff that sock out of the way. I'll put a little footage in as well, either at the beginning or at the end. We went for a nice walk downtown Fredericton. It was +9 degrees in February, and it had rained and quite mild. So we parked to charge our electric car, and then we walked down to a local gastro pub called Gahan House and had some nice cocktails / beer and a good lunch, and got to toast the happy couple and have a good chat with them. I also had to go up to Fredericton because I had 3 garments to drop off to my daughter and a pair of socks that I wanted her to be able to have before the weather gets too warm. So I'd already showed the Stockholm slipover, but I also wanted to give her turtle dove in the Briggs & Little roving, and her Felix pullover, which was a surprise. She was expecting the first 2, but the third she didn't. So I'll either insert some pictures here, or I'll do it later on when I'm actually formally talking about them, I guess. I've had quite a lot of new faces around here. I've had some lovely shout outs from some other podcasters. Leanne, the Knitting Stew. If you're not watching her, she's delightful. And she test knit my last pattern for me and showed off the Wintery Woods sock on her podcast and said some lovely things about me. And I've had a little bump in subscribers. I also had a nice chat with Libby Johnson from Truly Myrtle Designs in New Zealand, and she also gave me a little shout out. So if you came to me via either of those lovely ladies, thank you and welcome. I hope you enjoy being here, and we're gonna do some chat today, some knitting. I only have 2 FOs, and ironically, neither of them here to show you, but I do have some video/photos of that. So the big exciting news that if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen, other than my daughter's engagement, was a big secret I've been keeping since last August, and that is I'm going to have a pattern in Lina 52 Weeks of Socks Volume 2. They released the cover and some pictures last week, the week before. Time is starting to blur. And I was allowed to say that I have a pattern in the book. I'm not allowed to show the sock yet, but I'm allowed to say that I am in the book. And there's a few of us who have been keeping this secret since last August, when I got the oh so happy news that I got in. So I had a couple of questions from different people through the podcast or Instagram asking me if I would talk about how that process all went. So I submitted 2 designs, just for the experience, really. I had 0 expectations of actually getting into it because it's Lina and I'm so new to this. And anyway, it was, so the first one I actually submitted. I submitted 2, like I said. The one that didn't get accepted turned into the Sliptastic DK socks, which I can kind of see the top of up there, but I'll insert a picture here. So there's a deadline that you have to provide your submissions by, and the submission includes, you don't have to have a full item to show them, but there needs to be a sketch and a knitted swatch and a plan and the inspiration and how it fits into the theme of the book. So they provide a mood board on Pinterest that if you look at their submission calls, you can go through and look at that mood board just to see there's different colors and textures and just a vibe, I guess. And so pondered that for a few days and met up with Deborah, Yarn Indulgences, who has provided the yarn for both of those designs. And she will be dyeing up the yarn for the sock that's going to be in the book. Hang on, I need a sip. It's a lot of talking already. This is a nice Australian red, a Grenache Petite Verdot blend. Lovely blueberry, kind of dark berry notes with just a little bit of oak, but a nice fruity back flavor. So I submitted by email 2 sketches, 2 swatches. This is actually the swatch for the Sliptastic sock that I sent them. So you just, take a picture and insert PDFs into the email with your proposal. And because it's a written, a hard copy book, the space is quite important. So they want to know chart sizes, how many charts, etc. Just as far as logistically fitting it into a book. And so I sent that off and they were really quick. The turnaround on this one, I think the call ended and then 5 days later it was letting you know whether you were in or not. So of course this is Finland and I'm on the east coast of Canada. So I think it's 4 hours time difference, maybe 5. So it got to 5 o'clock on the day that we were supposed to hear and I hadn't heard anything. So Deborah reached out to me. My husband was away in Newfoundland after his father's funeral. He reached out to me going, have you heard? Have you heard? And I said, no, I didn't get in. This was just, it was a punt. It was a complete pipe dream punt that I thought I would just do for the experience. And then at 5:30 my time, so 9:30 or 10:30 in Finland, which I thought was a crazy time to be working, but when you run your own business, you work all hours, right? I got an email congratulating me, telling me that they had chosen one of my designs and which designs they had chosen. And I was gobsmacked. Quite frankly, I was ecstatic. Thankfully, I was on my own. I was at work, but I was on my own. So my squeals and leaps of joy were unwitnessed by my customers or my coworkers. So that's how that happened. And then the process after that, once you're picked, is I had to actually knit up the sock, write the pattern up, have it tested. I have 6 of my lovely testers who had tested for me numerous times in 2022. I reached out to them each. Obviously, this was not an open call. I reached out to 6 of my testers, 2 for each size, the 56, 64, 72. They all graciously, enthusiastically said yes, they would love to test. And it went to them. They tested. I knit up. I did a video tutorial, which will be linked on the Ravelry page when it releases. Lina have the exclusive rights to this pattern until, I believe, August 31st. It's a 5-month term, and then I will be able to publish and sell it individually as a digital download in my Ravelry shop starting in September. So after the testing, then I blocked the socks, put them in a courier mail bag, and couriered them to Finland. So they could be used in all of the pattern photography for the book, which again was another surreal level to this experience. I then went into a tech editing phase with a staff member at Lina, and then through a tech editor for the final. And that's where my participation kind of stopped. So by the end of December, beginning of January, I was out of the equation. It was test-knit, tech edited. They had the socks. And then I started getting emails a couple of weeks ago with all of the sneak peeks and when the scheduling and when we can start talking about it. So this is the phase that we're at. I can talk about it. I still can't show it. Ironically, I've had swatches back here behind me on the desk the whole time I've been podcasting, but I know I always block it, so I've never worried about moving them. Yeah, so that's the Lina, the excitement. I can't wait to show you the socks on March 10th. I'm just blown away excited. So that is that news. The engagement. Oh yes, last time I was here, I just launched my Wintery Woods Socks, my first toe-up pattern, which has been a joy to see online and get feedback from people. Thank you so much. I was able to donate $610 to the New Brunswick Heart Centre from all of your lovely purchases for the first. It actually ended up being 8 days. I did some marketing on Instagram and I said to the end of February 14th, not the end of February 13th. So I left it open for an extra 24 hours and got a few extra bucks, which was great. So I sent that donation off on February 15th and I was thrilled to do it. Thank you so much. If you grabbed the pattern, if you shared it on Instagram or Ravelry, I truly appreciate that. And then last week, on top of everything else, it was my 1-year design anniversary. My friend Leanne Duguay on Instagram came up with that because I just said, oh, it's my first birthday anniversary sale. She says, oh, it's your design anniversary. I'm like, where were you when I was designing that Canva post and Instagram reel? So I did steal it and use it for the next one that I did. I had a quick little 3-day sale to say thank you with 40% off of all my patterns. And that was fun to see what people were choosing to purchase and people saying that they just needed 1 or 2 more to round out the whole collection of my socks, which blows me away. Thank you so much. Always, always thank you. So let's get into some knitting. I have no finished objects to show you, but I do have pictures. So the first finished object was the pair of socks that I was knitting for Deborah Yarn Indulgences. I was using her sock marl and just knitting a pair of Rose City rollers in 2 different colors. So those got delivered to her. They were just a nice simple knit. The only other finished object that you haven't seen that was a whip last time was my daughter's Felix Pullover that I knit in the drops. Air. I'm looking at the spare yarn over there, which I should have grabbed. Hang on 1 second and I'll do that. Okay, sorry about that. So I had this spare amount of drops air that I had bought from my Turtle Dove 2 back several years ago. I bought way too much yarn. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, so I had enough to knit Samantha something. So I was being very conservative because I had just played Yarn Chicken on my ranunculus in the Briggs and Little Roving. You know, I lost and I had to buy more. But then I had almost a full I had a sweater quantity for a small person for the Briggs and Little Roving with that mohair. So that was for the Turtle Dove, heavily modified Turtle Dove 2. I'll insert a picture of my daughter wearing it from our visit earlier in the week. But I didn't want to play Yarn Chicken again. So I had mentioned last time that I had cast on a smaller size, but I was having to do a little bit of math because my gauge with this was not quite as loose as the Felix. I think I was getting 16 stitches and the pattern called for 17. So I was just going to be a little snug. So I did do some adjustments and I'll put a picture of Samantha wearing it. And as you can see, it is a little more fitted than I was going for, but she is wearing a base layer underneath. So if she was just wearing a bra or a sports bra or whatever underneath it, then it would move a little more and not be so stuck to her. You know what I mean? When you've got fabric on fabric. It looks great on her. She's thrilled with it. And of course she loves it because it's so soft. The annoying thing is I almost 2 full balls of this. So I could have done a significantly larger size, but I could have done a larger size that would have fit her just a little bit more ease, which would have made me happier. She swears that she's thrilled with it, but so now I have 2 skeins of this. So I'm a couple hats for somebody or a cowl. I don't know. For right now, it'll go back into my stash to marinade. But yeah, so that was a finished object. I will link the project notes below as far as what I did for my modifications. I made the size 1 because we didn't want a whole bunch of ease on it either. And like I said, I just kind of increased. I added a couple extra stitches here and there just to give it a little more space, but we could have done with a little more. So those are my finished objects, and I've got some works in progress. 3 out of the 5 you've seen on the last podcast, and I don't know how much progress I've made on a couple of them, but I'm not going to show you my London Underground Mind the Gap socks. I've done nothing except take them off the needles because I needed the needles for something else. So, as I said, I'm hoping this is going to be a slightly faster episode, maybe, because I don't have a ton necessarily to show you. I did want to show you a sneak peek. It's not of the pattern itself, but this is a design that I'm working on for Kim and Colin of Ginger Snap for Knit City Montreal. So I'm not showing you the pattern itself, but I did want to show you the sole of the foot and how it's working out. This is their Blooming Lovely colorway, and it's showing pretty nicely right there. It's really pale pinks to darker pinks with the speckles, and it's quite lovely. And yeah, so this is going to be my traditional cuff down, heel flap and gusset. But I have 1 sock complete and the other one is on the needles. It has gone to testers. They are doing their loveliest and working their way through the pattern for me. And this one doesn't have a huge rush because Knit City is until the end of May, but Kim from Ginger Snap likes to print out the patterns because they'll be part of the her Knit City Montreal booth. Yay! The other thing that I have worked on, but not very much, is the Mallard, the West Yorkshire Spinner socks. I can't remember. Well, I think I must have been here. This is where the stitch marker is. So this is I'm going toe up using West Yorkshire Spinners in the Mallard colorway with a modified Fish Lips Kiss heel to put a gusset in, and I'm just working up the leg. I talked about adding this little texture stitch in the middle of the colored stripe. It's just a knit 1 purl 1. It's a modification of the Sugar Frost socks. So again, this will be linked below. I have 1 full sock that I did show you last time. This is for my daughter's fiance, Rob. He has delightfully small feet, which makes him a joy to knit for. It's not a hideous size 15 sock. You know who you are. It's a lovely size 9.5. Okay, so that's that one. The other work in progress I had just started, I think, and I've done a little bit more on it, is the Simple Thing scarf. So this is using my hand spun, just a simple garter scarf / shawl with an I-cord border. Again, I will link this below. I took this on some out and about knitting I had a couple of days, just because it's fairly mindless, except trying to remember when I'm doing that increase, and I've noticed my stitch marker is gone. I have a stitch marker that I hang from there, so I know how many rows I've done plain knitting and so I know where to do the increase, basically. But it has disappeared. It's probably in the bottom of my project bag, my lovely wine-themed project bag. So the other exciting whip that I have picked up again, here's the hint, my Orbit sweater. I decided Sophie finished hers, Cozy Meadow Knits, and I just had to find mine out. And I also follow Marie-Elise Dugal on Instagram, and she was working on one as well, and I had to pick it up again. Sophie said hers was a little snug as well, and she just blocked the sweet bejesus out of it. So that's the plan. If it's a little snug, I will block the bejesus out of it. The fit looks better, to be fair, now that Christmas is over and I've gotten back to some kind of normal eating plan. All right, back to this sweater. When I showed it to you last time, I was working down the body, but didn't want to try it on because I knew it was going to be tight. But I've tried it on and finished and done the twisted rib on the body. And I have picked up the first sleeve and done the color work down the sleeve. This was the first time I've ever done that. The pickup underneath the arm and trying to get everything organized took me quite a while to figure out. The instructions are fine. It just wasn't registering with my brain. The second one went much better. Spoiler alert, I've cast on the second sleeve as well. All right, so I did the extra 6 stitches that Rachel, the designer, recommends if you need a little more ease in your arm. But then that meant I had to do some pretty rapid decreases to try and bring it down because I have a quite narrow lower arm and cuff and a very meaty bicep upper arm area. So sleeve number 1 got finished. Yesterday I got the color work done on the second sleeve and managed to get down to the plain knitting so I could take this to knit night. There was more knitting than there was talking. As you can see, I didn't get a whole lot done. And I did quite a bit when I got home from knit night last night. So I'm working my way down the second sleeve, going through those decreases, and this will be done soon. And the plan is Sophie and I are going to wear our Orbit sweaters when we podcast together. This is the rush to get this done. Not that it's a rush at this point. I've got plenty of time. So because I have plenty of time, what did I do? I cast on something else. So if you haven't been here before, this is knit in Sweet Skein is the main color, being boho in her fingering weight. And the contrast color in the yoke is a BFL hand spun that I've made. And I just love that color combination. It's just so, I really can't wait to wear this. I really can't. So that has been seeing quite a bit of love, which is why none of my smaller projects are finished, because I decided to focus on this bigger one. And then this morning I thought, well, I'm almost done that sleeve, and I've got, what are we, 22nd? I've got almost 2 full weeks to finish that sleeve and weave in the ends and block it. Lots of time. So let's cast on something new. If you've been here since the very beginning, I was talking about the fact that I wanted to re-knit. I had done a test knit for Isabel Kramer for her Laia sweater. I had knit it, and I had knit it at a bigger size than I would normally anyway, because I wanted it on the test knit, but I thought I could get away with it. But then I've lost quite a bit of weight since then. If you do look at the project pictures on Ravelry, you can see I have lost a bit of weight since that picture was taken. But I have this yarn caked back up, ready to knit. This is the Holst Coast and Titicaca held double. It is Purple Rose in the Titicaca and Passion Flower in the Coast. I've just left them together. I've got the 2 strands here together. I was holding them together to get gauge. When I frogged the sweater, I just wound them up in balls like this. I haven't washed them. They're not that, it's not that kinky. It's a little kinky, but it's not that kinky. So this morning I cast on Laya. So this is just a little, I've just finished the short rows. So it's got this, it's this lovely kind of royal purple with just a touch of marling from the Titicaca in there. So I'm working on increases. I have cast on the size 3 just to get the neck and shoulder a little bit smaller. I will be increasing out to the size 4 through the yoke. Once I split for the sleeves, I'll knit to pattern, but then I will be doing my A-line shaping that I talk about. I can show you that when it's in progress next time. And that was another exciting thing that happened last night. If you came to me from Libby, Truly Myrtle, I did a master class. I was slightly intimidated by that term, talking about how I customize my knitting. I did an hour-long Zoom session that has been recorded to be shown on Libby's Wardrobe Toolbox. It's a subscription-based plan that she has with website access to new patterns, direct access to her, talking about customization and, some super technical things about your knits. I highly recommend it. There's lots of, it's a great group on that website and lots of great information if you are looking to up your garment game and be able to make changes and be confident in making those changes. So that's what I was talking about last night and how I approach it with my specific shape, my pear shape. So I stood up, gave my dimensions. That was friendly for the internet. And then proceeded to say, don't be intimidated by the numbers because they're just numbers. And they are. Our measurements are just numbers. They are tools like our knitting needles to help us get to the size sweater that we need. It's a light bulb moment for me that happened a couple of years ago. More important than the measurements is recognizing your shape. For me, knowing that I'm a pear shape and I have to make adjustments for that pear shape. If you're an apple, if you're a little more straight up and down, I don't know what fruit that would be. Are they all fruits shapes? Anyway, if you're more square or a rectangle body shape with less hips, less curves, if you carry your weight more around your middle, you're a little rounder. There's all kinds of ways that we can adjust and change our knits so they fit better. So I had an hour-long session last night talking to a group of knitters about that before knit night. So that was super exciting. It was a little nerve-wracking, but I managed to fill almost the full hour, and hopefully I didn't rabbit on and talk too fast, as we know I'm prone to do that. So I have a bit of a passion, a vibe I'm excited about, how we should be able to take control of our knits and control that and not just use the pattern as it's written, not take that recommended ease as gospel, because it's not. I can't wear something with 10 to 12 inches of positive ease. It looks like I'm SpongeBob SquarePants. I'm just swimming in it, and I'm big enough. I don't want to denigrate my shape and who I am because I'm trying to accept that. But it's a struggle for all of us, right? Most of us, we are unhappy with our bodies at different times in our life, and we're just trying to find some acceptance in that. I find the older I get, the more accepting I get. I don't know if that's because I just don't give a bleep anymore, or I'm just feeling more comfortable in my own self. Boy, that got deep and rambly. Didn't mean that to happen. That is all the whips I'm working on. I've done one more knitted knocker, and that's just tucking away in the past in the background. I'm not going to show you those every time. I've not touched any of my blankets. Yeah. So I'm going to go on to spinning in a minute because we have to make a decision. If you were here last time, you'll know we were talking about plying decisions. I wanted to talk about comments I had made on a previous podcast about the Belfast Mini Mills. I had knit Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, my pattern, with a Belfast Mini Mills sock yarn. And I'd expressed that I was disappointed with the way that it split and felt in my hands, and it was extremely difficult for me to do the cables without the cable needle. And I want Troy from the Worsted Fiber podcast, who works at Belfast Mini Mills, posted a super informative, really helpful not rebuttal, but an answer to this. So I'm just gonna, if you want to see the whole technical information about it, please go watch Worsted Fiber Podcast. Troy talks about that. He was explaining that their yarn does tend to have less twist. They also twist it in the opposite direction to commercial yarns, which helps crocheters but can sometimes be challenging for knitters depending on the pattern and your style of knitting. So I kind of made a carte blanche statement about being disappointed with the yarn and that I wasn't sure I'd buy it again because I am a sock knitter and I found this extremely challenging, especially with the pattern, to do the 1/2 cable without a cable needle, which is the way I like to do it. I found the yarn quite splitty, but the fact that the way I tension my yarn and the way I knit my socks, I was untwisting the plies. So it is no fault of the yarn. It is just a different style of yarn. I will try it again. Troy had explained that they're looking at putting more twist in their yarn. And it feels beautiful and squishy. Like the finished project is gorgeous. And I can see myself knitting a garment. And I would happily try the yarn again once they've got a bit more twist in it for socks. Never say never. And I have to remember that I'm here talking. I feel like I'm just talking to myself and a few friends. I have to remember that I'm talking to a much wider audience and I don't want to dissuade you from trying this yarn. For me, it didn't work for socks, but I am looking forward to meeting the Belfast Mini Mills folks in person at the PEI Fiber Festival in October, and I'll be buying a sweater quantity of this yarn. So I wanted to talk about that because Troy did an excellent explanation after he said he was a bit disappointed when I had expressed my views. And I understand that, and I'm learning for that I need to maybe be a little more conscious of how I phrase things to you lovely folks that are out there, that I'm not just talking to myself like I feel like I am. Okay, so the last formal knitting thing I'm really going to talk about, I'm just checking to make sure I haven't missed anything. Last time you were here, I had this this spin on my little electric eel wheel Nano, and it was done with the lovely Rolags from Onina. And I can put a picture of the Rolags in here, but I didn't want to ply it back on itself because it was only 40 grams. I wanted to ply it with something. So the question was, what do I ply it with? And I asked your opinion. I showed you 3 options. And it was a split, but it was still leaning very much towards the orange, which is called Fireball. Could you see my brain ticking over as my eyes kind of glazed over and I fell back into my brain trying to find the word? Fireball. That was the name of the yarn, the fiber. So what I did, I grabbed a little bit of the fiber of the 3 options and I just spun a little single of each of them. So the Fireball in the middle was by far the most popular choice on the vote when I asked. But this it's got a sagey kind of feel, but it is very blue, but it's got, I don't know if you can see, I think you can, it's got some really gray undertones, which really takes the color down and makes it feel a little sagey. And there are some sagey notes in that single ply. And then the hot pink, so this is where I'm at. There are pops of this hot pink, but I have a feeling that ply is going to be too bossy. And then this just doesn't feel like the right tone, but then I see that right there and I think, ooh, maybe it is. It would be a nice contrast with all of the yellows and golds and hot pinks in there. And then for me, I think it is still the winner as far as making a cohesive yarn is the Fireball. I think the notes of the oranges, and there is a red, but it's coming up a little almost in the hot pink range that's in the single. So I said, I still think I'm leaning towards the Fireball, just so the ply is a little more cohesive with the color of the single. It doesn't jump out too much, like that hot pink would have, and I fear that this one might as well. So, yeah. I tried doing a little twist. I took some footage, but I was really struggling to get it to twist properly so you could kind of see, ooh, what my hair doing? So I could see what the plies, how it would ply, how it would look when it was plied. So if that video footage is any good, I will put it up there. But these are now the top 2 contenders, and I still think I'm leaning towards Fireball. So that's spinning. This will be getting plied soon, I hope, but I will need to start a new spin as well, because I always like to have something on the wheel when my hands need a break from the knitting. I'm looking at myself in the screen, so it must mean I need a drink of wine. I was joking last night when I did that customization fit session for Truly Myrtle last night. I did it just with water. I didn't feel it was appropriate to be drinking wine while I was doing it. But I always do these videos with wine, and they're not live. So doing it live and only with water was a little intimidating, but I've had some lovely feedback this morning about, that people enjoyed it. So I haven't been brave enough to actually go on the website and watch the replay. I don't know. We'll see. So I have no acquisitions, but I do have a rather substantial order on its way from Ginger Snap. They had a sale over the weekend for some mystery bags with an amazing deal of flat rate shipping. So I just kept ordering. I think I put in 3 orders over the weekend and kept messaging Kim going, I'm so sorry. So sorry. Can we just add this? And she ever so lovely did, and then put it in the mail fairly quickly. I think it hit the mail on Monday or Tuesday. Ooh, got very bright. It's one of those days the sun is coming in and going out. And so I keep getting a little bit brighter. So the last thing I guess that I wanted to talk about is podcast love. The reason I started doing this podcast is because I love watching podcasts. So I'm going to try and do a little session, a little mention at the end of the podcast about some of my favorites. Today I'm just going to talk about 4 Canadian podcasts. And next time Sophie and I meet up, maybe we'll have a little chat about some of our favorites as well. So I already mentioned Leanne from The Nitty Stew, is based out of Calgary. I'm sure you're already following her because the podcast is lovely. She is a flight attendant and travels around Canada and shows us the places where she gets to spend the night or spend a little time. So we're getting to explore a little bit of Canada with Leanne, and then she shows us her lovely knitting, and it's just a joy. Little Big Knits, Selma is one of my long-term favorites. I've watched Selma since the beginning and love her garment vibe, her sweater math. Leanne Nitty Stew was talking about that. I've also used Selma's sweater math numerous times, being able to adjust your knit to your gauge and all that good stuff. Selma has a lot of great information. She's a prolific knitter, primarily garments, and has lots of great information to share. I also mentioned Sophie, Cozy Meadow Knits. I highly recommend Sophie. She's just lovely. Fearless. She'll cast on anything and try anything. We were talking about her bottom up sweater. I've only ever done one of those and it was a miserable fail. I won't be doing another one in a hurry. And she is working on a bottom up sweater. We'll hear about that in March when her and I get together. And the last Canadian podcaster I'm going to mention for today is Knitting with Cat Hair, who is the lovely Nikki in Sudbury, Ontario. And also a prolific garment knitter, lots of color work, loves the non-superwash, more rustic yarn bases, has a passion for all things Marie Wallen, which I just admire and am amazed by at a distance. I love looking at them, but I have no desire to knit one. But I love seeing yours, Nikki. Yeah, so that is, I just had 4. I'm going to try and keep, like I said, I'm trying to keep this a little bit shorter today. I said I watch a lot of podcasts, but I'm going to spread out my recommendations. If you don't follow any of those lovely knitters, I highly recommend that you do, and I will have a few more to recommend for you next time. So I talked too much, and it's a short episode because I still have wine left. But I'm going to say goodbye to you anyway. And I will drink it while I'm editing this afternoon. I wish you happy knitting, happy sipping. Thank you for tuning in and hanging out with me. Please leave any comments or questions below. Don't forget, questions for Sophie and I for our shared podcast, your opinions on the handspun, what I should ply, and anything else you'd like to mention to me. Enjoy your next couple of weeks, my friends, and I will see you soon. Cheers. Cheers.